Section 3. Big Business and Labor. Andrew Carnegie was one of the first industrial moguls. He entered the steel industry in 1873. By 1899, Carnegie created the steel company, and he manufactured more steel than any other factories in Great Britain combined. So number 13, you can write down what you see in red as to who is Andrew Carnegie and the fact that he started the steel company. Please write that down next to number 3. 14. His business practices. The fact that he initiated many new business practices, such as searching for ways to make better products cheaper, accounting systems, tracking expenses. He attracted quality people by offering them stock and benefits. Next to number 14, it's describing vertical and horizontal integration. Carnegie attempted to control as much of the steel industry as possible. How did he do this? Vertical integration. You can write this down next to number 14. He bought out his suppliers, coal field, iron mines, freighters, and railroad lines, in order to control the price of materials and how it was transported. In addition to vertical integration, you need to write down horizontal integration. And what he did was he just bought up the competition through friendly and or hostile takeovers. And this is known as horizontal integration. So next to number 14, write down that he bought up all the competition. And as a result, what ends up happening is you have one steel company now in the United States. Business growth and consolidation. Consolidation means putting it all together. So mergers could result in a monopoly or a trust. Next to number 15, the question is asking what a monopoly is. Write down, a monopoly is a complete control over an industry. Write this definition down, please. So an example of this consolidation is in 1870. Rockefeller Standard Oil Company owned 2% of the country's crude oil. By 10 years later, it controlled 90% of the crude oil. So you only had one option to buy from, and it was from Rockefeller. That is considered a monopoly. 16 is asking, explain what social Darwinism is. Social Darwinism is a philosophy that has its theories in the origins of Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin theorized some individuals and species flourish and pass their traits on to while others don't. Social Darwinists, like Herbert Spencer, believed riches was a sign of God's favor and being poor was a sign of inferiority or laziness. So next to number 16, please write this down. Social Darwinists believed riches was a sign of God, favored and being poor was a sign of inferiority and or laziness. Question number 17 is asking, what is a robber baron? Robber barons. Alarmed at the cutthroat tactics of industrialists, critics began to call them robber barons. So basically, for question number 17, these people became so rich with ruthless tactics that they were almost robbing people. Please paraphrase and write that down for number 17. All of these people were not bad, though. They were very rich. Read along with me. Despite being labeled as greedy barons, rich industrialists did have a generous side. When very rich people give away lots of money, it's called philanthropy. Carnegie built libraries. Carnegie, Rockefeller, they all built schools and things of that nature. The Sherman Antitrust Act. This is question number 18. What is the purpose of it? The purpose in 1890 of the Sherman Antitrust Act made it illegal to form a monopoly. Please write that down for question number 18, that it made it illegal to form a monopoly. This is always a fun picture to look at. Number 19. Explain the working conditions for the people. Workers had poor conditions. Workers routinely worked 6 or 7 days a week. No vacation, no sick leave, no compensation for injuries. Injuries were common. In 1882, an average of 675 workers were killed per week. Explain the working conditions. 6-7 days a week. No vacation, no sick time. Injuries. Please write that down for number 19. Question number 20 is asking, as working conditions became worse, what did workers begin to join in 1866? Labor unions. Please write that down for number 20. As conditions for laborers worsened, workers realized they needed to organize. The first large-scale national organization of workers was the National Labor Union in 1866. And then shortly afterwards, the Colored National Labor Union followed. '21 is asking, who is Samuel Gompers and what did he become president of? Craft unions. Craft unions were unions of workers in skilled trades. Samuel Gompers led the Cigar Makers International Union to join with other craft unions. He became president of the American Federation of Labor. Please write this down, that he became president of the American Federation of Labor. They focused on collective bargaining to improve conditions, wages, and hours of the workers. Industrial unionism. Some unions were formed with workers within a specific industry. Question number 22, who is Eugene Debs? Eugene Debs attempted this industrial union with the railway workers. In 1894, the new union won a strike for higher wages, and its peak had 150,000 members. So you can say, for number 22, he led the industrial union. So Eugene Debs led the industrial union. '23 is asking, define socialism and what was the IWW? Socialism and the IWW. Some unionists, including Debs, turned to socialism. Please write this down. An economic and political system based on government control of business and property. And please write down the IWW is the International Workers of the World. All right, so strikes. They turned violent. Several strikes turned deadly in the late 19th century as workers and owners clashed. 24 is asking, explain the outcome of the Great Strike of 1877. The Great Strike of 1877, workers for Baltimore and Ohio Railroad struck to protest wage strikes. Other rail workers across the country struck in sympathy. And then the federal troops were called in to end the strike. So number 24, put down federal troops ended the strike. Federal troopers ended the strike. '25, the Haymarket Affair. Labor leaders continue to push for change, and on May 4, 1866, 3,000 people gathered at the Haymarket Square in Chicago to protest police treatment of striking workers. A bomb exploded near the police line, killing several cops and several workers. Radicals were rounded up and executed for the crime. Please paraphrase this slide for question number 25. The Pullman strike. Number 26 is asking, describe the Pullman strike and its outcome. On this slide, the Pullman Company laid off thousands of workers, cut wages, and then the workers went on strike. Eugene Debs, the American Railroad Union, tried to settle the dispute, which turned violent. Pullman hired scabs and fired the strikers. Federal troops were brought in. So number 26, please write down the Pullman Company workers struck. And then the Pullman Company hired scabs and fired the strikers, then brought the troops in. '27. Although women were barred from most unions, they did organize behind powerful leaders such as Mary Harris Jones. She organized the Mine Workers of America and she was given the name Mother Jones. Pauline Newman organized International Ladies Garment Workers unions at the age of 16. So 27, what role did women play? They helped organize. '28 is asking, what was the response of employers? And the most powerful the union became, the more employers became to fear them. Employers forbade union meetings, refused to recognize unions. Employers forced new workers to sign yellow dog contracts, swearing that they would never join a union. But despite all these efforts, the AFL had 2 million members by 1914. Please write down for question number 28 everything you see in red on this slide.